All right, this is everything for a 7-day pack-in trip in Idaho. We'll start with what I'm gonna go in wearing. Mendel shoes, boots, Kuyu, a little bit of First Light, some pants, sweatshirt, vest, gloves, jacket. Then we come over here. Got the walking sticks, tripod, spotting scope, hats, first aid, binos, handgun holder. Got some batteries, bino attachment, all the water, sawyer, other little miscellaneous stuff, sunglasses. Going with InReach Mini, cow call, battery pack, Bible, jet boil, hydration, sleeping bag, -15, Nemo, got a rain tarp just in case. We got the Nemo cushion, we got Meat Eater's High Country pack. This is a rapid cover for the rifle. Hevlon and Stone Goat Montana Knife Company. Got some nighttime booties. These are cold weather super down Kuyu glassing outfit. Christensen Arms 300 Win Mag. FN 510 bear rounds. Got Nosler 190 grain. Got a waterproof insert, and then all this stuff is because we are packing with horses, all extra. Got the rain gear over there, just some tools, socks, extra food, extra gas, extra blades. That's all it takes for 7 days. And the food over here, a couple of wipes. I'll show you what I got for my food for every day. Okay, what I'm gonna go over is just some of the core gear that I used. And I'm giving a video because I'm not some seasoned guy. I haven't been doing this forever. I'm doing this in my eyes as an amateur. I've only been hunting 5 years, but I do my research, work hard, talk a lot, and I did have a really good hunting partner that's more seasoned than I, and I'd say in my eyes, seasoned, he was excellent. And anyways, I'm gonna go over some of the core stuff that I used during my trip. A lot of different brands out there, but backpack wise, I went with the XO Mountain, or the XO gear, and they got a wonderful website. They have so many informative videos on their website about everything with their packs. I mean, like this company is pretty much all about the pack. And I went with the biggest pack. They have on there that you should get a smaller one and not always necessarily get the biggest pack. But I went with the biggest one for future trips that I think there was a good chance that I might need it. Just to kind of show you, here's the belt and everything that goes around your shoulders. Some of the neat little things that they have for this. They do have on this side, you can kind of get another container just like this that holds all your elk calls. So I can just kind of pull it out there. No, actually, I'm sorry, it goes here on the belt, but you can have all your elk calls in it. This was for my InReach Mini, and so that's the GPS, right? So that was an important thing. And then I kind of liked how it had this little pouch one of the things I'll talk about a little bit later is I don't know if I'm going to keep the gun always on my chest. I know if I go archery hunting, I'm probably going to move my gun to this side on the belt, and I'll probably move this pouch over to here. Okay. Reason being is you don't need binoculars a lot of the times if you're in the woods. You can't see very far. So if I can shed a little bit of weight and not have the binoculars and a gun on my chest and just have this, it's game on. I kind of would like that. So that's one of the things I think I might change for next year. But other words, no complaints about the bag. Bag was awesome. Put tons of miles. Comfortable. I mean, as comfortable as it can be with 25 pounds on your back. And just working through the woods and everything like that. And overall, I mean, analogy holder right here, right? That was, and I really liked how that held it. I went with a normal size analogy. I didn't want one that kind of stuck out too much because your arm would hit it when you walk, and that would drive me nuts personally. But yeah, optics on one side being the tripod, other things on that, like my gun actually was mounted with this sling, and then up here, and it held the barrel up there. They got videos on this on their website. They call it a quick release. I hurt my shoulder, and I can't get to the quick release. So it wasn't the most effective for me, but it still comfortably held the gun on here when I was walking. In my opinion, I think they could probably do a better way, and they probably will. Because for me, because of my shoulder issue, it wouldn't have mattered if I would have just put it straight on the back of the pack or on the side, kind of thing. It worked. So, yep, that was the backpack. Exos backpack, wonderful site, tons of information on it. My buddy used a Kuiu, and he had no issues with his. That's his second round, I think, with that as well. But yeah, other words, awesome backpack. It's got a lid to it. I mean, this thing rolls up to my waist as far as the size. Great backpack. Another little addition that you get with it, you don't get with it, I bought it separate, is if it is like insanely rainy, you can actually put this waterproof thing into the bag. That's probably the one time that I'd kind of be bummed that I have such a big bag, because if I put the waterproof into it, every time I gotta get into it, I would have to climb to the top of this bag. This is how big my bag can kind of get to. Yeah. So I mean, like, I'd have to make sure that what I don't want is really at the bottom, and what I do want is at the top. Yeah. That'd probably be my only complaint, but it's super waterproof. Like, you can literally, you wrap it in here and you curl it down, like my whole bag can float down a river, stay in this, and then I can find it, and everything in here will probably be dry, which I think is a pretty cool thing. So that's definitely got its benefit to it. And then next thing we'll go for gear, what I used is I did Mendel boots. And you can see these things are beat up. I'm gonna have to wash this kitchen table after, because I probably shouldn't put them on the table, but Mendel, and it's a German company. It was recommended by my friend. They are 400 gram insulate. So I don't know if I would do that again for the temperature. And so what I mean by that is 400 is how insulated they are. With the temperatures that we had, kind of getting 35 on the low, 65, 70 on the high, I would go with no insulation. Other words, I mean, I put an insane amount of miles on these things. I didn't get any blisters until the very end. One of the things that I think the reason why, kind of figuring it out, is one day I strapped them way too tight. Like, I just thought like, oh, I want these really nice and tight. And by the end of the day, my feet were kind of like hurting a lot. And I think it's because I didn't have any little bit of movement in there. So, but other words, these boots, waterproof, like up to here. I gave them a nice good cleaning and waterproofing before I went out there. The tread, I did not feel like I was slipping or anything along those lines. Super comfortable. Once again, I said, like, my only complaint, it was a 400 gram insulation, and they just maybe felt like a little bit more of a boot than like being a little more tiptoe-ish and being able to move my feet a little more, you know, like I'd kind of like that feeling a little bit, but it's a must though to have some ankle support, because when you got all that weight on your back, if you miss a rock, like if I was wearing just shoes, I would have exploded my ankle. All right, so those are the boots. I went Kuiu for the most part with all my gear. I did the bias, that kind of pattern. I was very happy with that, all that gear. I'll put out a list and you can see exactly what kind of stuff I got. I kind of went in the middle. I didn't get the best stuff of everything. I didn't get the lowest, but I was very happy with that as far as all that gear. The next core thing was what I wore on my chest. This held my binos. All right, so it was sitting right there. I basically had my binoculars in here. I could just pull, grab them, put them right back in, right? And then you see on the underside, this is where my 10 millimeter sat, and that went around here. So if it ever got weird, I have to pull, right, to kind of get this out. I did practice just to be familiar with that. Whenever we were walking, I would often just, kind of, think about it, stuff like that, just to be ready, right? So those were the main two things that I had, that I think is pretty integral. Main couple of things, right? We went over boots, what kind of pattern I wore, my backpack. Next thing we can go over is the walking sticks. The walking sticks, I went with black diamond walking sticks. I just like cork, so I went with the cork. Cork is what's on the handles. They were light ones, they were kind of the more expensive ones. One of the things that I actually really liked about these is this foam underneath it. Reason being, you kind of set it to where it is and you're holding it like that when you're going through. But when you start going up mountains or you go into like a little trail where it's like narrow, the pole would be up here. I could just let my hand down and I would hold like here with them. It's just a quick and easy way to, like that. If I was going up more, I could just bring my hand down and hold it like that. And so I liked that part of it. That was one of the things I thought was pretty neat. My one complaint though, that I kind of do have with these is when I first got out there and was walking down the hill and it wasn't, luckily we just did a little trial run, was the pole was loose. So it was out, I went to push it in and the pole literally went like that, right? And luckily my hunting partner had the right size Allen wrench. I had an Allen wrench set, but not the right size. And that's how you can change how tight this clamps on. That would maybe be one of my only complaints, if they could figure out some way that you didn't need an Allen wrench, to fix this. That because my buddy, his trekking poles were 8 years old, and it just had this little dial on it that he could actually physically just do it. Yeah. And that, I was like, that kind of makes more sense. That would be my only complaint about the walking sticks. I did have some other features with the walking sticks that I ended up not really needing or using, just how it all panned out. I tried messing with a monopod, so right, bipod being 2, monopod being 1, where I could set my rifle on this and hold. Honestly, it's just too much movement. It really didn't make a difference that much having this. So this actually inserts into the top of this, right? So I can actually pull this part out and then insert this into there. So if I wanted, I could shoot and use it as a shooting rest. But like I said, it just had a lot of movement. I didn't really like, I was playing with it. The other thing that I thought was gonna be cool, but honestly, I just didn't feel like I really needed. It's a little bit heavy as far as when it gets down to all the weight. I like it, I thought it'd be a neat thing, but I actually didn't use it at all. This is just like a little climbing axe. Same thing, it can go into the top here. And what you could do is if it was real steep, you can kind of push in, like if you're on almost your hands and knees going up the side of the mountain. Honestly, what's going on in my life and everything else, I don't know if I really need to be playing on the side of a mountain that's that steep, unless I really had to. So I'm kind of on the fence about having this. I thought it'd be a cool thing, but I don't know if it's necessarily necessary based on what kind of environment you're doing. All right. So those are the walking sticks. They were awesome. My only complaint being that screw that can adjust them. All right. All right. Safety first. Origin teamed up with Refuge Medical. this might be a little bit overkill, but I'd rather have more stuff than not enough stuff if something seriously went wrong. On the side here, you guys know what that is?
Tourniquet?
Yep. On the side here, it's got a tourniquet. What a tourniquet is, if I had my arm like really hurt, or leg, or something where an artery was bleeding and you couldn't stop it.
Arms and legs.
Arms and legs, yep. So if it's cut here so bad that it's bleeding and I can't stop it, I have to go above it and crank that tourniquet down, that it stops the flow there, and then I'd hit the SOS button, right? Then it's got some scissors on that side. You can rip this thing open, and inside, it actually starts out with what's a Sawyer. That's what I use for my filtration system. I have no complaints with the Sawyer. It seemed pretty darn easy to me. And also the thing that was nice, so you got all these bags. This thing like weighs next to nothing, super light. So we were conveniently put next to water, but let's say water was like a mile from where we were. What you do is you throw all these bags in your backpack, and when you're heading back in, you go to the water and fill up these bags before you get back to camp. You don't want to like go back to camp and then walk another mile to get water and then come back to camp. That's like 30-40 minutes, right? So if it's 7 o'clock at night, it's wasted time, right? So you can put a whole bunch of these bags in your bag, and that way you're only lugging like heavy weight water for just like a mile or two. So that was super nice. I could pull this whole thing out. Like I said, it's borderline overkill, but it's just got everything. It's got wound packing, ice, gauze, wraps. They did it. It's meant for Western game hunting, like the whole pack and everything. Yeah. And so this was great. Like I said, maybe a little overkill, but I'd rather have too much than also be out there and go, oh, I wish I had a tourniquet. And granted, we're wearing belts. There's straps on our backpacks. So if we really need one, we're gonna make it happen real quick. So yeah.
Would you lose your friends or yours? Your friends.
Medical kit?
Yeah.
I had the better medical kit.
Okay, so you're right.
He too lives dangerously, but he basically has like a couple of band-aids and a few things, not too much. But I just kind of talked to him. He's like, yeah, it's probably a little bit heavy. Maybe it's like 4 pounds, which is kind of heavy, and I kept this with me every day. But better say, like, I'm gonna sacrifice lugging around 2-3 more pounds than what I would normally, to just have a little bit of safety and peace of mind. So yeah, Refuge Medical is like a big Western game hunting kit. That's what they cater to. They know it better than me. That's what their job is. So sometimes you have to put the hands on other people. But there's no complaints with that. Seemed like a really good product. All right. So those are the core main things as far as the gear that like you're using every single day. So what we'll kind of go into is a little more smaller, broken down things. Okay, just let it play. I'm just gonna edit it. All right. So some more small, broken down. You guys want to know what kind of blades I was using? We did get one elk. I got a couple that I brought, and I thought I was going overkill, and then my hunting partner brought out like 4 knives. So I think I'm doing okay. I really have no complaint with the Havalon. Havalon's a company that makes disposable blades, like surgical blades, because when you start skinning a thing, going through a tough hide and all that stuff, or hitting bone and everything, it makes your knife really dull. So you can either sharpen and get back after it, or you can just take the blade off and put a new one on and get after it. It's people's preference. Both will work fine. I went with this Havalon. I kind of like that it has this big wrap and kind of keeps all my knives together and everything like that. Opening that up, I have on top here Montana Knife Company, made in Montana. You hear about it a lot with all the elk hunters. Everyone kind of swears by it. It's called the Speed Goat. I like this because it is super duper light. So I'm kind of like, bright orange, so you don't lose it at night when you're skinning or gutting. So it's easy to keep, but insanely light. And so I did like that. I didn't use it that much, so I really can't judge on it yet. I'm gonna, with my next whitetail or something like that, use just one of these knives and see how they kind of hold up. But next one I have is one that I got in Utah, but it's actually an Idaho company that makes it. So I was like, that's kind of neat. Since I'm going to Idaho, I got it before the Idaho trip. It's a New West Knife Works, and it's one of their little small series. I'll be honest, it's probably more beautiful than it is necessarily the best knife to have, but I do really like it. That's a hardwood handle, and honestly though, like this case for being out in the wild, it's pointless. This case, this is good. The knife stays in it. This one, exactly. I probably shouldn't have done that. I've almost cut myself. But you get the point that like it comes too easy in and out. It's kind of more of like something that I would have on my belt just day to day. But it seemed to work fine. Holds a decent edge and was just a nice knife. But I used it a little bit and it seemed like it had no issues. Held a decent edge. But for the most part, the majority of it, I did use the Havalon. I believe this one is called the Talon or something like that. I got other Havalons. This one's nice because you just basically pull the blade out, and they got blades with a gut hook, and you pull that blade out and you just put it on there. It's got a little connection, put it in there, and then you push this button down and it locks it in and it's good to go. I mean, and it's a nice, good, solid, like strong handle, and like I said, the gut hook holds the blade, you cut, and you start to feel it dull out. If I feel it dull out, I can just take it off. There's a little plastic things where you can just put it like used ones, non-used ones.
Yeah.
And I got another one ready to go, right? So like convenience wise, like not having to sharpen, but once again, that's not the hardest, but I was in there insanely sharp. So I was very happy with the Havalon product. Yeah, and I kind of liked the case and being able to put my other ones in with it, just like that. So that was what I used for the knives, and that was my knife kit that I had.
Did you use them when you were getting like?
Yeah. When we broke down the elk, yep, this is exactly what I used. And you guys will see. I'll have I got a video of time lapse us breaking down the elk, which ended up being really pretty darn cool. Yep.
Dude, which one's your best knife?
Honestly, probably I like the Havalon just for this company's for like using that. Each one's kind of got a favorite aspect.
Yeah.
Probably like my overall favorite one's the one that's pretty.
Yeah.
With the hardwood.
Just because.
So yeah, that was the knives. Good. When we're talking about all the gear, something I did kind of like was these little bags, because you got like side pockets and everything else, but you kind of, I put like a lot of stuff in this, and then I could reach in my big bag, grab this, pull it out, and then just boom, go through it. Some of the things that I had in there was like a lighter. This is a knife sharpener, rope, because you had to hang the meat after, right? And I had a whole bunch of other little things, but I'm not gonna really go too much into that. It's just like, like lighter, all these little nuanced things, but all in all, it was cool. I like these bags. It was a good company. It's FHF Gear. You can find it on the Meat Eater link. That's a company within their stuff. All right, next, should we go on to sleeping bag?
Yeah, sleeping.
Slide it on down. So the company I went with for the sleeping stuff, REI, kind of just went for what's light, what's got good reviews. I went with Nemo's Disco, and it's rated for 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's the size of it. Here's a comparison for you as far as like a Yeti mug, right? It's got a compression thing to it, right? So I put it in there and then I get to compress it down, which makes it even tighter and smaller. Like I said, I kind of looked at what weighs light, what gives me a lot of warmth to it. It's actually even, it was nice for where we're at, has vents on it. So if it was like the temperatures we had, I could open up those vents. So if it's like hotter than what it is, it had little vents on the chest to keep more airflow in it. Yeah, so it goes over your head. My only complaint actually with it is it was like almost too wide. And just in the sleeping scenario, being on top of, this is a pad, right? A little air pad. My arms could kind of fall off of the air pad. And this is like small things, but could kind of like fall off the air pad while I was laying there. And would be like on the ground or on the cot. Yeah. So and I got what I thought would be more comfortable, because it is a little bit more wider. It's not a hard mummy. So there's a couple of different types of sack sizes and shapes. A hard mummy probably would have kept me more like this, which I don't know, I might have got like what kind of nuts because of how tight it is. But what I did go with this was, I was happy with it, but maybe I could have gone with something a little bit more tighter on the sides. And then I went with the Nemo tensor insulated mat, just like a regular mat. And it's pretty cool how they have these things fill up now with air. Like you do like a bag, you just blow in it and you just roll it on and fill it up in like a minute or two. Then on top of that, the other thing I had was just a little, I think it's called Nemo's pillow. It's just a little air pillow. And this thing is kind of like, my buddy was making fun of me. It was such a nice sleeping bag. It's got a little insert for the pillow to go into it, right? Because that way it doesn't move around all night. So like you literally just kind of mummy and cocoon yourself in there, put the pillow in there. It was kind of the Cadillac of sleeping bags, but it's important, right?
Yeah.
But
especially when you're out like that, you don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Yeah. I need a good night's rest. So sleeping bag, just the pillow and the air mattress that you're on, all Nemo Disco, tensor insulated, and then like the pillow for the pillow. No complaints, except maybe I just wouldn't get a wider size. I'd maybe go a little tighter as far as how wide it was.
So, unless you had got cold, what would you do?
So what I know as far as the solution, let's say it was like 10 degrees, it was like insanely cold on everything else. I have Kuyu's super down glassing gear. So what it is, come on, mind hand me that right behind you. The stuff on the left, go left, right there. All of those things, yep. All right, so what this is when you're glassing, you're not moving and you can start to get cold, right? And if you get cold, it's hard to sometimes warm up if you do get cold. But like I said, when you're glassing, when you're glassing, you can get cold because you're just sitting there and then you're on the side of a mountain and it can get super cold. So how we got into this segment is Noelle asked me what if I got cold? And if I got cold, I had this stuff with me. And I think you guys can notice this stuff is insanely light. So I actually had this stuff packed in my pack all the time in case we were glassing. But here's what's cool about this. And Kuyu is just, obviously they're like the leading company on this kind of hunting. And what's cool about this is you see it looks like just kind of a little pack / pillow. If I wanted, I could use probably these as a pillow. I can unzip this. And pull it all out. And we now have an insanely warm layer of down for a jacket. So I got the jacket, right? That'll help keep you warm with my hands. These are super down glassing gloves. Boom. And then if like this finger was getting cold, you could literally just slide it over and just keep it like a mitten in here. Like if this was like really cold temperatures, right? This is just so that if I'm glassing, I can move the dial kind of stuff and like still do that, right? Or if I did have to pull a trigger, I can still do it with these on, right? So those are the super glass. And one of the things I thought was cool that they're, once again, these people figured it out. You put your hand through there and then you kind of tighten this up, right? Because let's say I am glassing and I want to shoot. And if you're on the side of a mountain and you lose a glove, you're probably not gonna get it, right? Right, so like, right, they just, these companies thought of it all. That's awesome. So I got those gloves. So this is if I was super cold that night, I could put these gloves on. I could put this jacket on. And then just like you saw with the jacket, those are the pants, right? So I'll just show you since we've already done this much with it, that, right, we got the super down jacket, really warm. Like it's meant for like the cold. And then same thing as like with that. These are, so I saw some people that get like warmer sleeping bags, like that only go to 40, and then they just wear this at night, which I think is pretty darn smart. So same thing, super down pants too. Yeah. And once again, this company's just smart as a whip. If I'm out in the field, I don't have to take my boots off because it zips all the way up on the sides.
Oh.
So I like, you know, if it's like freezing out and I want to like put this on, I can just zip it around me versus like taking boots off, or if it's like snowy and all this other stuff, and like best thing you need is to put your foot in wet snow or anything along those lines. So I think that's pretty darn smart. I mean, so this is just basically a whole super down jacket. So if I ever got cold, and it was insanely cold, I could wear this to bed.
And
at
also
night.
like it's all camel.
Yeah, but it's camel for when I'm glassing, which is very important. Yep,
Yeah.
You're right. So yeah, that to go over, there's kind of the glassing stuff. And also, not only is it glassing stuff, but it's also if it was insanely cold.
So like that's more
Yeah, and I could just wear that. These are just some more gloves.
gloves.
Yep, if they're so small in how they've packed again, but yet they're still like a pretty decently warm glove
And that's
if
more
I needed
like,
that.
That's
right?
more like for sure.
That's more like if it's like not freezing cold.
Yep,
cold
but
enough
cold,
for you.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So those are convenient. And then what you can do is you can get like, that all fits in this bag, like a little liner. So another little layer of warmth that like is real thin on your hands. And then you can put them inside of these too. And then you have like a lot of like warmth, okay? So yeah, that's what we have as far as those things. I talked real quick, Sawyer. This is some extra stuff. This is just what I can pull it all from. This is where we got all our water. Basically, if you don't know about it, it's all out there, but you grab one of these bags, you go over, usually we go fill it up a little bit, like with air, so then we go to the water and dip it in and fill it up. Then you screw this thing on top. Boom, boom, boom. Spots full of water. And then, like I had my analogy or my backpack, the bladder where I could drink from. And then you just squeeze it through this filter and you got clean water. So I was pretty happy with that as far as like a tool. No complaints. I still carried around some of the pills that you can put in your water just in case if something happened where this broke or wasn't working. But yeah, was happy with that for the water filtration. The next thing, headlamps. Headlamps are insanely important. I had a feeling they were important, but I didn't realize exactly how much you're using them. You're using them the whole time around the camp. Like at night, there is no light. You know what I mean? So you're literally the whole time using them, just doing things. It's on the whole time. You turn it off, it's pitch black, right? So you're using like the headlamps are a darn important thing. This is one of Black Diamond's higher. I think it's 400 lumens. It's waterproof. I was happy with this. I have no complaints, except when I compared it to Garza's. Garza had one that's called Peak, and he never charged the battery from what he told me. I'd have to double check with him. In 7 days, never had to charge the battery or battery went out during the whole time. And it's a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, but you're usually wearing them on your hat and stuff like that. So I was like, that's pretty darn impressive. In the 7 days that I was there, I went through 6 batteries. This is the third set of batteries as like on the last day that I went through. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind as far as when I'm going to be out somewhere for 7 days. I need an extra 9 batteries, AAAs that work in here, right? I think it is insanely important that it's waterproof. Whether it's like you bend over, like I'm getting water from the lake, if it were to fall in, it'd still be okay, right? I do have a backup one that wasn't waterproof, and kind of looking back on it, that one's been donated to my son. And reason being is it isn't waterproof. I'll probably buy the one that Garza had and keep this as my backup. Probably pretty important to have one of these as backup. If there's one thing to have backup, like definitely having a backup one of these. I had some other things that I had backups of that I probably didn't really need.
Was Garza's waterproof?
As far as I know, but I'm not positive, but as far as I know. All right, so the trip was 7 days, and here's your typical jet boil, right? I was pretty impressed with these things. They're pretty awesome. You take that out, you got that. So basically this is a little stand for it. It's kind of optional if you wanted. You can just kind of put that on there, right? Boom. This Has a little gas control on the underside, right?
Yeah.
If you want, you can get ones that are a little bit cheaper that don't have an ignition on it. This one's got the spark ignition on it, right? You screw that on, you put that on. The big concept I want to let you guys know is boiling water once to twice a day. Over 7 days, I didn't go through a full canister of this. So because we had horses taking us in, I brought like 4 of these canisters. Overkill. I only thought I needed 1 extra, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you take this off and you put that on there, right? You turn that over, boom. Boils water in like 90 seconds. It's crazy. It's pretty darn cool. Then it's pretty neat how they've really figured that out, obviously. How compact.
More of them?
More of these?
Yeah.
I have these canisters.
More of those.
Yeah. Definitely at least I would bring 1 extra one, but for 7 days,
Yeah.
I think 2 of these small ones. It just depends. Are you making coffee in the morning? Then maybe you need an extra
And
one.
it depends on how long
On
you're
how often.
going.
I, on average, at least once a day, 1 boil. No, it was definitely 2 boils a day.
Yeah.
I was going, and I didn't go through this in the 7 days we were there. Which and then how it all works, that goes in there, boom. Take that right back off. Boom, boom, boom. And pretty neat how,
Small like
yeah, pretty small, light. That's a pretty cool product. I was impressed with that. But it's a must. You need it. All right, let's talk GPS real quick. Lesson learned out there. Talking about GPS. My buddy Garza's, and even this one, actually didn't really work the first day or 2 as far as our location. But on my phone, I had a thing called OnX, which is like another kind of mapping system for hunting, and we could use that. But this was having problems. It even gave us a text that it was having problems for the first like day or 2 we were there. So like was not accurate to where we were, was not working that good. Okay, but other words for them having issues. Super happy with it. It's kind of more of like the backup. It's got the SOS. If something really bad were to happen, I hold that down. It shoots out a signal, and they'll send a helicopter. Where we were definitely would have been a couple of hours before it would have came, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and then also what it
Use your
does.
First aid kit while you're waiting.
Yep. And the thing that was smart with it is, like I said, Garza didn't have the one on his phone for the GPS. He just had one like this that had the screen on it that you could see where you're going, but it wasn't working. So the first day or 2, it was just like come and go and wasn't working. So luckily we had my other one, and we were able to use that one real good with it, right? And we could just boom use that other one. So what I'm also getting at is, was it maybe overkill that I had OnX Maps and my Garmin? Maybe, but Garmin wasn't working. We had OnX, and I was good. And if my phone breaks, I don't have a good clean map, but the features on this, I can set it back to my waypoint, and it will tell me if I'm going towards it or not, and it will still help me get back there. It doesn't give me like a map, but it gives me messages, lets me know if I'm going towards the target I'm trying to get to and everything else. So very happy with the InReach Mini combined with the phone that has OnX Maps. That I think is probably a pretty ideal scenario.
With that, did it finally work or no?
Yeah, it worked after, I think it was about the 2nd or 3rd day. It started working a little bit better.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that was the GPS thing. All right, we're gonna go over some batteries and then optics, and then that's it for kind of my quick hash out of all my gear and everything else along those lines. Batteries, everybody in the hunting realm, in the elk community, all the savages, all this stuff swear about this Poseidon Pro by Dark Energy. It's supposed to be indestructible, waterproof, which is great, except it only charges my iPhone 2 times and it's dead. So if I'm out there for 7 days, we're gonna have an issue. On the same front, I put my phone into airplane mode and it goes about 2 days without a charge. My GPS, honestly, probably could have gone about 4 or 5 days. maybe 5 days without getting charged. If I wanted to save more battery on it, I wouldn't have tracked either. So I wouldn't be surprised if this pushed 6-7 days with me never having to charge. So, okay, we could probably get away with never having to charge this, and then my phone, 2 days, it needs to be charged, right? So I would have been in trouble if I would have just taken this. But I kept this always packed with me because it's indestructible and waterproof and everything else. So I do think it's kind of nice to have this as far as what's with me the whole time. But for doing a trip like we did, where we were out there for 7 days straight, this is just an Amazon buy. And it's got a solar thing here. We left it out, or my buddy used his and he left it out. It gives you about 1 bar of energy after a full day. But like I said, if I'm only charging my phone every other day, I'm gonna be okay, right? So it can still charge itself with that if we really needed it. Another backup that it has on it is if I wanted, I could wind it and that will generate some energy. I don't know how long I gotta wind it or how hard I gotta wind it. It's probably nothing super impressive, but it's still backup, right? And then another kind of cool thing about it is it did have all of the charging cords that you needed on it right there. So it really kind of, I was pretty impressed of all the things that I got. Like, you know, like this was pretty solid. Did a good job. It's got your 3 main charging cables there.
Yeah.
If I really wanted, it's got a light to it too.
Yeah. So it's basically this.
So it's got lights right there, which I apparently don't even know how to turn on.
That probably wouldn't have been that helpful. Because
But in that whole time, I only used 1 bar. But like, I could have definitely had more things. I was just making sure I'd better be safe than sorry. As far as, yeah, there's the lights. But I was actually really happy with this, and I kind of get the purpose of this one. So I would kind of sit with just those 2. I did have another charging pack. It was a little overkill as far as my sources of energy. I was pretty happy with those. All right. Let's go into optics, and that's a wrap. Real quick, things I didn't use, but is all dependent on weather. I had a whole Kuiu rain gear. I had a rain tarp. Once again, I didn't need them. Didn't need to use them. I had the gaiters for around my boots. It just depended what we were trekking through. I probably would have used it the last day. We were going through a lot of wet grass. Yep.
Is the elk the only one the only animal you found?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the hut. Is that for school?
Yep, it was. Last couple of things. I did a Leupold spotting scope. It's a 60 as far as the size and how far it goes. I was no complaints about that. It worked fine, did its job. The other things that I was pretty darn happy with was I got the Vortex Fury HD AB range finding binoculars. So it was they're pretty darn cool because you can be looking at something and you just hit a button and it ranges it there versus having another thing. It was all wrapped in. Leupold makes them too. I went with this one because it was a few ounces lighter as far as weight. Okay. Super clear adapter for the tripod and everything else on those lines. I went with the Leupold tripod. That was no complaints. Pretty darn decent light and everything. Yeah, so I really didn't have any complaints with that. You know, you open it up, you undo these, you can adjust all the height. And the other thing that, just in case you don't know, just to kind of give you a heads up, let's say I have it here and I just don't have a good target behind me. You can actually pull this out and put it up like that. So like when you're on a mountain side, I just kind of sit there and then I would do one side like that and then rest it on the mountain like that. So that I had this like literally like that. And I could just glass, find a good comfy spot. Because you want to be comfortable, you're there for hours, right? So other words, super happy with that. And the other thing with it is it hooks up to that, or I had this adapter for the binos if I wanted to put the binos on there. Basically, you just put this right in there and it sits on top of there, and I could just keep it still. Because when you're doing glassing, it's got to be super still. For the most part, that's it with the optics. That's kind of the main gear list of it, all of it.
How many minutes will you be glassing?
So 3-4 hours, 60 minutes an hour. So we do 60, 120, 180, something like that. Okay. All right. Hope you guys enjoy. Kind of got a rundown on all the gear list for a 7-day drop camp Idaho hunt. For the most part, I was happy with everything. Last little notes. If you got a better solution than these for what's in your ears, let me know. Because you're walking, you're trying to listen for an elk, so you'd have to take it out, but then if all of a sudden the elk came up, I'd have to do that. So I think there's a better solution than these, so let me know what you would use instead of these. Either way, I kind of want to know if there a way that I can get rid of. I'm trying to aim and I gotta go, oh shoot, and kind of mess it all up a little bit. So I use those for the ears. I wish I would have kept my gun covered a little more with this. It's filthy, and I could actually feel it in the bolt action. I think there's like a little bit just dust and stuff in there. Like, I wish I would have had that in there. I wish I would have brought like a little quick gun cleaning kit, just even if it's something small that I could have got a little oil on my action and stuff like that. But other words, I'll post my gear list on everything. Really happy. Last thing, I brought 2 pairs of pants. I was really happy with the Kuiu pants. The second pair of pants I brought were Origin. They were too thin, like going through all that brush and everything, and it would have been cold. So I wore long johns underneath those, but bring 2 pairs of pants that you really like that. Like now that I know, I'm gonna bring 2 pairs of the Kuiu pants because I really liked how those work. And after we broke down an elk and I'm covered in blood, my hunting partner did tease me about how bad I smelled the next day because I had bloody pants on. So then I put one to the other pair. But bring 2 pairs of pants that you know you like and you're locked into. And mine were, I believe, the Kuiu Attack pants. But I'm going to put down my whole list of all the stuff that I had brought. Thanks for the help.